All right, let's get right into it. The metaverse is everywhere, right? But today, we're going to look past all that hype and ask a pretty tough question. Are we actually building a brand new world? Or are we just creating a digital copy of an old and frankly exploitative one? And I want you to really sit with this for a second. The big promise of the metaverse is this idea of limitless freedom. But what if, in just a couple of decades, we look up and realize we're stuck in a new kind of servitude? A world where our digital homes, our creations, maybe even our very identities, they're not really ours at all. You see, we're standing at the edge of this massive new digital frontier. And no, this isn't just about video games anymore. This is about building a whole new layer onto our reality, a place for creativity, for connection, for entirely new economies. And the vision they're selling, it's genuinely exciting. Just imagine it, being able to build anything you can possibly dream up, connecting with people all over the world in these incredibly immersive ways. The potential is absolutely massive.
This is definitely not some niche hobby. We are talking about a colossal, mind-boggling investment. Companies like Meta are pouring billions, with a B, into laying the groundwork, into basically mapping out this new territory before most of us have even figured out how to log in.
And that's where we really need to hit the pause button. Because when you see that much money and power getting concentrated that quickly, you have to ask the hard question. Are we really building something new here, or are we just slapping a futuristic coat of paint on the same old power imbalances?
To really understand where we might be headed, sometimes you have to look back. So let's explore this idea, this unsettling feeling that the way we're building this digital world, well, it might just be echoing some of history's most troubling patterns.
And when you start looking, the parallels are kind of chilling. Think about it. Back then, you had royal charters giving companies the right to claim entire continents. Today, we have terms of service agreements that give platforms immense power over their digital realms. The historic land grabs have become today's virtual real estate gold rush. And the exploitation of natural resources? Well, today, the most valuable resource on the planet is our data. And believe me, it is being mined on an industrial scale.
So let's dig into that a little deeper, this idea of a virtual land grab. When you buy a piece of digital property in the metaverse, what are you actually getting? Who's making the rules? And who really owns the digital ground beneath your virtual feet?
See, the resources on this new frontier, they're not physical, but they are incredibly valuable. We're talking digital land, unique NFTs, the virtual currencies that make these whole economies run. But here's the kicker. The most valuable resources of all are the content that you create and the personal data that you generate. That's the real gold these platforms are mining.
And this leads to a really disturbing thought. Is it that far-fetched to imagine a future where digital laborers, maybe in developing nations, are paid pennies to do repetitive tasks, all to build these shiny virtual worlds for the rich? It feels like a direct and frankly ugly echo of historical exploitation.
Okay, so who are the new emperors of this digital continent? Who are the big players carving up the map? Let's take a look at the corporations building these new digital empires.
First up, obviously, Meta. They're not just playing the game, they're trying to build the entire stadium. With platforms like Horizon Worlds, they're building a massive, centralized universe where they own the infrastructure, they run the marketplace, and they write all the rules.
Then you've got a giant like Roblox. It's this huge, sprawling ecosystem with its own vibrant economy and its own currency, Robux. But at the end of the day, the company controls it all. They set the exchange rates, they take a cut of basically every transaction, and they can change the rules of the game whenever they want.
And of course, there's Epic Games, the powerhouse behind Fortnite. These guys are absolute masters at building these incredible immersive worlds. But just like the others, they control the foundation, the infrastructure. In their worlds, they are the architects, the bank, and the government, all rolled into one.
So here's the bottom line. Inside these corporate-owned worlds, every single click, every conversation you have, everything you create, it can all be tracked, analyzed, and turned into profit. It's the level of surveillance and data collection that really does start to feel like a colonization of our very own digital identities.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There's a counter-movement, a real push for a different path. And a lot of that hope is pinned on something called DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. The idea is simple but super powerful. What if the platforms were owned and governed by the users themselves? No single company in charge, just a community making decisions together. A real digital democracy.
The promise is amazing, right? But we have to be realistic. We have to ask, are these DAOs actually going to be democratic? Or does the power just shift to the people who can afford to buy the most voting tokens? Are we just trading one set of rulers for a new crypto-savvy elite? It's a real question.
And this brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation. We are not just passive spectators watching this happen. The metaverse is being built brick by brick right now. And the choices we make, the things we demand today, are going to define the future of our digital world.
So what can we actually do? Well, for starters, we can demand true ownership of our own data. We can throw our support behind open platforms that can actually talk to each other instead of these locked-down, walled gardens. We absolutely have to call for smart regulations that protect users, and maybe most importantly, we have to raise our voices and be part of this conversation now, before all of this is set in stone.
So I'll leave you with this. Right now, the path of least resistance, it leads straight to a future where a handful of digital empires own the virtual worlds that we all live in. The only real question is, are we going to wake up and demand a different path, or are we just going to sleepwalk our way into digital colonialism?